everybody, I'm the Drink Pro. Today we've got another one from the Weller lineup. It's the Weller Foolproof. What's up everybody? Kyle, the Drink Pro, here yet again. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for liking, subscribing, clicking the bell for notifications, sharing this video with your friends, joining the Patreon. Everything you do to support this channel is amazing and incredible, and I love it, and thank you so much. Hope that wasn't too gushy for you. It probably was. I don't care. I'm going to do it again every time because I cannot believe I have this wonderful opportunity to drink whiskey for all of you today and every day that I get to make these videos. It's always a blessing. Hashtag blessed. Today, I am going to continue with the third video in my lineup of Weller tastings. Thanks again to the Naptown Bourbon Club. They're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. They do a lot of cool tastings. They do a lot of good charity work. They're going to be doing bottle picks with proceeds going to charity. Check them out if you're in Indy. Check them out if you're not in Indy. Naptown Bourbon Club help provide the samples that made these videos possible. So I appreciate it much. Thanks, guys. Now, the first two videos, the Weller CYPB and the Weller 12, were both at 95 proof. We're taking a significant step up with the Weller Foolproof. This is at 114 proof. For those of you not doing the math at home, that's 57% alcohol by volume. Now, why 114 proof? Why is it called Foolproof? Well, that's the same proof at which the alcohol enters the barrels when they're starting to age them. Because Buffalo Trace fills their wheated bourbon barrels at 114 proof, when it comes out at 114 proof, it's foolproof. Got it? Cool. So I think the Weller Foolproof will actually be a more interesting comparison against the Antique 107 because the proofs are closer, but I'm still going to do the 114 Weller Foolproof compared side by side against the Weller 12 and compared side by side against the Weller CYPB. The Weller Foolproof is actually a relatively new product. I believe it was June 2019 when the Weller Foolproof first became available. And I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a background about the Weller lineup. I've done 3 of these videos now, and I haven't talked a whole lot about the history of Weller. William LaRue Weller was a whiskey salesman in the 1800s who had a hand in creating the Stitzel-Weller distillery. Now, most people know the Stitzel-Weller distillery for Pappy Van Winkle and the Van Winkle whiskey lineup, but they also made a series of Weller products. When the Stitzel-Weller distillery shut down in 1992, it sort of was unclear who would pick up the name. Well, 7 years later, in 1999, Buffalo Trace bought the rights to the Weller name, as well as several other Stitzel-Weller products. They decided to continue the Weller name and create more products in that lineup. I believe it may have been unclear during my Weller 12 video, so I want to make sure I'm crystal clear. The Weller 12 actually was first put on the market in 2001 by Buffalo Trace. And they've continued to put out new releases since the 2001 release of the Weller 12. Like I said, the Weller Foolproof was only available in June of 2019. They've also very recently released a Weller single barrel, which unfortunately I don't have a sample of. I'd love to make it a part of a video, so if you've got one and are willing to share, hit me up. We can make it happen. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and pour out some of this Weller Foolproof to do a nice tasting of it. Now, this will almost certainly be a lot stronger than the 295 proofers that I've tasted so far. So I'm looking forward to getting into this. Let's go ahead and nose it. Oh yeah, much sharper, a lot more citrus notes actually on the nose. The Weller lineup though, the mash bill and the process is very consistent. I definitely still get the berry notes. I definitely still get blueberry, but the lemon becomes a lot more prominent. The citrus notes really shine in this higher proof product. And I gotta say, I think the vanilla isn't as pretty in this. The vanilla was so wonderful with those 95 proofers to get this rounded vanilla bean flavor. The vanilla in this Foolproof is a lot more of an astringent, sharp, acidic almost vanilla extract and lemon citrus. As it calms down, I start to see a lot more of the caramel notes. There's also a definite white chocolate component on this. I get this sweet, creamy chocolate note. I've had that creaminess show up in different ways on these Weller products, but this particular pour really gives me that sweet, creamy white chocolate. Maybe I'm getting a chocolate-covered cherry as well. I'm getting a little bit of green apple, I think, also. Getting some cinnamon and some black pepper as well. The herbal notes I can tell are still there, but there's so much ethanol coming off of this glass that some of that herbal quality gets lost. This might actually be a situation where I prefer a whiskey at a lower proof. Maybe 95 is too low, but 114 might be too high. Well, we'll see once I get into the tasting here if I feel that 114 actually makes sense in the Weller product line. Something really interesting just happened. The beginning of this whiskey was miles better than the 12 and then the CYPB. It started, oh, wait a minute. So this whiskey started amazingly, super sweet and baking spice and just this beautiful, almost dessert-like quality. It almost has like a cinnamon bun or cinnamon cake quality right off the bat. It's just one of the best starts to a whiskey I maybe have ever had. But very quickly, that goes away, and I end up with this interesting bitter note that's somewhat bitter nut, somewhat barrel tannin, and then the finish is very herbal compared to the other ones. I get a nutty mid-palate, I get an herbal mid-palate. Oh man, and then there's this real astringency, that oaky, astringent quality shows up on the finish there. Still a little bit of that dark cacao chocolate. You know, it went from this creamy chocolate on the nose or almost a white chocolate to this deep, rich, dark chocolate on the finish here. The mid-palate and the finish on this are really interesting. It's very big, bold, definitely have that bitterness of the wood, lots of cinnamon. The sugar though, from the almost honey quality, or maybe like corn syrup and vanilla, a little bit of maltiness. That does carry through somewhat in the mid-palate and the finish, but you have to acclimate to it before you can really get that to show up because the wood and the sharp barrel tannins and the nuttiness are pretty prominent. Let's go ahead and try the CYPB and the Weller 12 side by side with this and see how we think. All right, let's start with the CYPB. Oh man, so much sweeter, so much fruitier, very, very creamy, really interesting. Okay, the 12. See, I think the 12 might be a sweet spot on these. The Foolproof is really got that barrel note prominent. If you like that barrel char, if you like a strong ass-kicking Foolproof whiskey, then the Weller Foolproof is going to give you a lot of those elements, but in a calmer production. You know, it's going to still have that sweet, easy drinking simplicity, not in a bad way, but you know, it's not going to be challenging like any of the Weller lineup, but it's still going to have that sharp barrel bitter that you're looking for from a Foolproof, deeply aged whiskey. A lot more citrus. I would say a lot more of the cinnamon, sweet cinnamon, like a hot cinnamon red hots. But the Weller 12, you get that sweet vanilla bean, that rounded caramel, all these interesting round, voluptuous flavors. I think the astringency of the Foolproof really makes it not preferable to me compared to the Weller 12. The CYPB has this really interesting fruity note, but you miss a lot of the fun woodiness that shows up on the 12 and the Foolproof. If you really want something that just tastes like a piece of candy, the CYPB is your wheelhouse. It's very fruity, very candy-esque. And if you want that Foolproof, ass-kicking woodiness, the Weller Foolproof is your choice. But at the end of the day, I keep coming back to this Weller 12 because it's a best of all of these different worlds. It's sort of presenting all of the good elements of each of these pours, quieted down and blended together to create this really excellent, balanced pour. And I think that's what I seek out. So if I was going to line these up, I might actually put the Weller Foolproof below the CYPB at the bottom. It's really uncommon for me to put a Foolproof whiskey below these 295 proofers, but it really feels like they're trying to tack at the end this just tale of woody craziness. And it doesn't fit. It's just really off-kilter and not well balanced compared to these other two. So I can see the appeal if you love Foolproof whiskey, but if you love Foolproof whiskey, you're probably not going into the Weller lineup at these levels. You're going for higher levels. You may even get the William LaRue Weller, which is going to be a Foolproof whiskey. And that's doing something totally different. And it's presenting that balance while still being woody and sweet and, you know, all of these elements. So I think the Foolproof has to be at the bottom of the lineup. We'll find out if it compares to the Antique 107 and the Special Reserve in the next video, but until then, shout out, thanks again, Naptown Bourbon Club, and you all keep drinking like professionals. Cheers.